I'm not even a big heavy metal guy, and I like that intro.
All right.
Solid, solid.
Yeah, it's kind of like get you pumped up to hear about some
Yeah,
ultra running
yeah.
news.
Get you
Welcome
fired up.
everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back if you're tuning in again, or if you're new, welcome to the Ultra Running News Network. With me as always is Johnny. What's going on, Johnny?
Not a lot. Not a lot. Taking, got that fresh PRP injection. Feeling young and spry. Let's go.
I saw that on the Instagram feed.
Yeah.
What
Good times.
is that? Are you in pain from that?
Not now. I'm not going to lie. For the listeners out there, if you've had the PRP, especially into a knee, doesn't tickle, doesn't hurt, but doesn't tickle. The day of, not the greatest. Like the day of, it's amazing how much that thing swells up. Like it's amazing. Like you just feel like there's so much fluid and so much like junk in there. You know what I mean? The second day, any deep bending you want to do, anything like that, like it's a little cumbersome. I went for a hike at a state park way in Northeast Ohio the next day. That was a smart choice. That was really thought that one through. That was interesting. But yeah, now, it's 2-3 days later. You're pretty solid. You're pretty solid after that, and
good.
Hopefully, it does the magic. We're back out there shredding the trails.
That's right. We need to get you back in action.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're gonna go over some race results from last weekend. Quite a bit of stuff going on still here in January, and then we do have some stuff in the form of news. We have the Ultra Runner Magazine's top 10 countdown for Ultra Runners of the Year has started. So we're going to go over what we have so far for that. And also we have some news about one of the more well-known personalities in ultra running that it's good news. I think. And,
I think it's good news. I think it's, if not good, it's really interesting news. Like it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm super happy about it.
Yeah,
looking forward to sharing that with everybody. And also we have a film review. There's a new film out. It was sponsored by Sportiva and directed by Billy Yang. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. And okay, we'll go ahead and get into some race results. And we're gonna start. What's that, John?
Oh, I was going to say, without further ado, but I don't know why I was mumbling to myself.
No, I like it.
Great
I like
content.
it. Without further ado, we are going to start with the Avalon Benefit 50 mile and 50K run. Now, I believe this run has been going on.
Wine mixer.
That's right. This is on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of Southern California, made famous by the movie Step Brothers, if everybody's familiar with Step Brothers.
I love the fact that in our juvenile minds, Catalina was made famous by that movie, not because it's Catalina, right? Like, no, it was this goofy ass movie and boats and hoes and that's what made Catalina famous. Yeah, like I love it.
Right. Yeah, there's much more history to that island versus the Catalina wine mixer, but from Step Brothers. But anyway, they've had this race for 43 years, and it's a benefit race. It raises money for the Avalon Lions Club. It benefits their charitable work and community assistance throughout the island. And the cool thing, about running this race is that runners get to cross the island on foot, so you can really see a lot of the interior and see stuff that you normally wouldn't see. And some of the roads that are closed to the public typically are open for the run, so you get to see stuff that most people don't. So I've had my eye on it for a long time. I'd like to run it sometime. It's always in January, and I think it would be a cool race to do. But okay, so let's go ahead and get into the results here. In the 50 miler, and this takes place on some pretty nice, smooth fire roads from the of it. So would be kind of a nice race to just really enjoy, not have to worry about, tripping over rocks and roots and things like that. But first place is Michael Ruff overall, and he finished in 6 hours and 30 minutes. And then first place female was Haley Hasty, and she finished in 7 hours and 33 minutes. So pretty solid 50-mile times throwing down there.
That is cooking.
Yep, I would imagine you could really open it up on some smooth trails like that.
Yeah.
And in the 50K, and I do think in the 50 mile, it's around 6,600 feet of climbing. So it's not flat, but it's probably just the right amount of climbing to still, keep it fast, because you got some nice downhills too. So in the 50K, Sam Condon was first in 4 hours and 8 seconds. And for the females, Laura Beresford, she finished in 4 hours and 24 minutes. So congrats to them. The next race we're going to do results for is the No Hands 50K, which is in the endurance capital of the world, Auburn, California. And it's put on by this race company, Inside Trails. This is maybe my favorite race company, Inside Trails. I wish maybe that they would get into the 100-mile race game. They have all distances, but I think 50-mile or 100K is probably the longest that they go. But their courses are always great. They put on Muck, John. They put on Muck, which John has run. He came out here to visit.
Love Muck. I'll say this: if they put on Muck, I would blindly sign up for this race. Like I have that much faith in them. If they did Muck, and you're like, oh yeah, this was ran by them, I'm like, say less. Let's do it. Like I'd be all in.
Yep.
Have you ran this one, Jamie?
No, I haven't, and I have to check, but I think, yeah, this is a new race. They just started it last year.
All right.
So yeah, it would be worth it for a nice early season 50K to go up to Auburn. The winner was Drew Maycumber in 4 hours and 26 minutes. And for the females, it was Abigail Swift. She finished in 5 hours and 26 minutes. So nice work.
I might have just planned a vacation for June and I next year.
Yeah, come out. You can stay here and
meet you in Auburn.
Yeah, right. Probably won't be as hard to get a room in Auburn as it would be for the Western States weekend.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
So the next race results we're going over is the Santan Scramble. This is put on by Aravaipa, and pretty popular race. And this is a 50K in Queens Creek, Arizona. And Allison Baca, first place overall in 4 hours and 13 minutes. So she took the overall win. Congrats to her. And the second place was also female, Arden Young, 4 hours and 20 minutes. So the ladies took down first and second.
That's awesome. You don't see that. You don't see that very often. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Also, a common theme that the listeners will start to see, Aravaipa will be a common theme amongst races, because they put on a absolute boatload of races. Like they always have races going.
Yeah, they're a grassroots race company, which is cool. and they've really taken off. And I'm sure most people are familiar with Aravaipa, but yeah, we'll definitely cover a lot of their races this year. And Matt Hamilton was first for the guys, 4 hours and 25 minutes, third overall. Santan Scramble. The next race, and is the first 100-miler, I believe, the first trail 100-miler that we are going over this year. Well, it's Brazos Bend, which takes place in Needville, Texas. They actually had a venue change this year. They used to be at a state park, but they moved to a private ranch. I believe there's 16 laps in the 100-miler. Yeah, so it's a loop race, easy for logistics, but maybe difficult for the mind.
Yeah, 16 loops.
Yeah, and they have 100K as well. So in the 100K, the winner was Jonathan Morris, 9 hours 34 minutes, and for the female division, Sonia Stutz in 12 hours and 50 minutes. So nice job to them. And then the 100-miler overall winner, Fernando Lopez, 18 hours 13 minutes, and for the females, Rong Hu in 20 hours and 16 minutes. All right, moving on to another race that's pretty popular. They're usually they usually have write-ups in Ultra Running Magazine for their races, and that's the Frozen Gnome race in Crystal Lake, Illinois. And I'm sure this is usually a pretty cold race and usually snow on the ground. I'm not sure what the weather was like this year, but in first place we had Reese Slavendanuk, and he came in 4 hours and 21 minutes. And for the female division, we had Rachel Reyes, and she finished in 5 hours and 28 minutes. I imagine they get some interesting weather out there.
I can't. That race would suck. That race would be absolute misery. But this year, I mean, shit, they should have had course records this year. They legit should have had course records this year. Like, they should have been blazing.
Yeah,
so,
and maybe it was. I'd have to look back and see. The next race, I'm going to go over the results first, and then we're going to talk a little bit about this race.
Yes.
This is a race that I just came to learn about, and it started looks like in 2022, and it's called Just Survive 125. This is a race in Florida, and I'll talk a little bit more about the race in a minute, but first we'll just go over the results. It's a 125-miler, and first place was Julian Long in 32 hours and 23 minutes. And there was no females that ran the race, and there was only no female finishers. I'm not sure if any females started the race or not, but there was only 7 finishers.
Look at the time on that. 32 hours. 32 hours for a 125. I'm not laying down any land speed records, but that's slow, man. Like that, and we'll see why, I think, here in a little bit. But holy smokes, 32 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if this race is really drawing in a lot of people. Definitely not drawing in any elite runners that I know of. But an interesting race to talk about anyway.
Yeah.
And here's their website, which is a Facebook page.
A private Facebook page.
And a private Facebook page. And they talk about the race here. It's 125 miles, and it goes from Hobe Sound Beach to Lake Okeechobee and back. So it's an out and back on mostly single track, remote, rugged trail. No crew, no aid stations, no cheering volunteers. It's you against the course. There's four drop drop buckets. They're not drop bags. You get a 5-gallon bucket, 15 and a half miles apart. So it's an out and back. So I'm assuming every 15 and a half miles you come across one of your buckets.
Yeah.
If you finish in 48 hours, you get a buckle and a finisher's shirt. And the race record is 31 hours and 23 minutes for the men, and 41 hours and 50 minutes for the women. So,
it's giving a lot of an Old Dominion vibe, and not in the sense that it's out and back or nothing like that, but in the sense of like you'll get the bare minimum and you'll like it, and it's you against the course, and like that's like it's giving like that's what it like. I as someone who has had their face kicked in not once but twice by Old Dominion, it is this is that's the vibe these guys are trying to give off, and it look. We'll see more. We will see more.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's Florida in January, so the temperature might be nice, but we looked into some more details about this race, and I don't know, John, if you
want here, let me
share some of the pictures.
Let me just go ahead and enlighten some folks on what this will look like for you. So let me go ahead and get this screen share up here. There we go. So like Jim was talking about, here's your buckets. These are your buckets that you get to have stationed throughout there. So that is a real thing, right? Hey, beautiful course, nice and pretty, little scrub, some pin oak, right? Easy money, great trail, doesn't look too bad. No trip hazards, not a ton of route. Love it, beautiful. Okay, this is kind of cool, right? Like this would be really cool to run down. Now I know my clumsy ass is tripping over the first like little board that's halfway sticking up, and I'm gonna have a giant splinter out of myself. But this is really kind of cool. Pretty, all right, nice. I'm sure there's some beautiful bullfrog sounds or whatever else, or some alligators trying to eat you. Like, okay, that's cool.
Big old swamp.
Yeah. This is fine. No issue. Listen. I come across this section of trail in the dark, and I am falling asleep and falling in that swamp. Like that is where you find my remains of whatever the alligators did not eat. Like I am falling in that. There's no way I'm making across those two boards and not falling in.
And for those listening on the podcast platform, if you're only hearing the audio, this is this is basically just two planks, like a little bridge through a swamp.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, it's not straight. There's like two little jaunts in it. Like it's like 100% someone's able to fall. I'm not trusting myself to walk across it in daytime, fully awake, sober. Like it's just all right. So beautiful, no problem.
Okay.
Trouble begins. All right. And so, like Jamie said, for those of you who are not seeing this, first off, if you're on the podcast and you want to see it, go hop over to the YouTube channel. You can see this. It is, from what you can see in the picture, literally a single track trail underwater. Like it is a single track underwater, and like you're getting wet. It's like, I know you step in that and it's going at least ankle deep, right? Because it's soft grass, muddy, it's swamp, and it is literally, as far as the eye can see in this picture, it is underwater single track.
Underwater single track.
One can only then ask, well, hey, now that I got my feet good and wet, and I probably got a little bit of like rot, and my feet are all wrinkled, and everything is soaking wet, how can we make that suck a little bit more? Allow me to offer you up some nice, soft, white sand for as far as the eye can see again. It is. If you've ever been to Florida, it is like that, or anywhere on the East Coast. I don't know about the West Coast beaches, but it's like that it's that sand that leads you to the beach. It's like that
Yeah.
super soft. It is like
Yeah,
your feet.
that's getting in your shoe. There's no
Oh.
ifs, ands, or
Oh.
buts about it.
There is not enough gator in the world that keeps that out of your shoe. Man,
Right.
your feet are wrecked. So yes, while we are talking about 32-hour finish, bro, your feet are annihilated after this race. Like there's no way. So
Yeah.
there's a sick sadistic part of me that wants to go see that race.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say it's on my bucket list, but
No, you know who would do that race? You know who would do that race and would like think it's funny the entire time? Ronnie Delosier. Ronnie Delosier would think that race is hilarious the entire time.
All right, Ron, if you're listening, shots have been fired.
He's our guy. He's our guy for that. No pacer, no crew, no cheering section, as they say. Oh, horrible.
Yep. All right. So we just thought that was interesting. Wanted to go over it. Next up, we have a Michigan race.
By the way, if you're one of the 7, or if you know one of the 7 that ran Just Survived 125, hit us up. I want to talk. We want to have you on here, and we want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Like this needs to get to someone who did Just Survive 125.
Yeah, definitely.
Insane.
Definitely curious about that.
Yeah.
Yankee Springs. This is a race in Michigan, and I just wanted to cover it. I lived in Michigan for about 13 years, so and I never got a chance to go out and do Yankee Springs, but I think they have a winter version and a summer version, and it's a loop race, I believe, but they have a 50-miler and a 50K. Again, the weather, you never know what you're going to get, but I would imagine more often than not, it's like that picture, because I think it's closer to the west side of the state. So they're probably getting some more snow out there, but, anyways, Jameson, Klopner won the 50-miler in 6 hours and 30 minutes. And the first place female was Iris Lenauer, and she finished in 9 hours and 30 minutes. That's 6:30. That's pretty fire for a 50-miler. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and so again, like you said, generally speaking, you're probably running in snow and ice and everything else miserable.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, God, you love you some good old. Guess you gotta love you some global warming, because they didn't have a drop of snow. I mean, it was probably 30 degrees, which, I mean, you can hammer on 30-degree weather. And that's like for us Northerners, man, that's like prime running. Like that's shorts and like maybe a long sleeve tee, and you're just hammering it, like you're going all out.
Well, I've seen you wear shorts in like 18-degree weather. So
yeah. By the way, that I went ahead and looked up where that is, because it's like just south of Grand Rapids and just east of Holland, Michigan. So it's between Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo, a little east of Holland. So I mean, they're probably getting some weather off from Lake Michigan when it comes in, but this year it was just a great run this year, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure too. That area is known to get lake effect snow, and usually buried, but yeah, I know it's been light this year. So, all right. And then the 50K, David Hedges was first, 3 hours and 43 minutes. That's smoking. And first place female was Ariane Whitaker in 5 hours and 45 minutes. All right. So I think that was, so that's all of the race results that we're going to go over. There was quite a few other races that we are not able to get to. If you're involved, if you're listening and you're involved with any of the races that took place, and you want the results read, we can do that on the next episode. Just leave us a comment, or shoot us a message on Instagram, or however you want to get a hold of us. We gladly do that. Okay, now we're going to move into the Ultra Runners of the Year. And this is something that is put on by Ultra Running Magazine, and they've done this for a long time. And it's kind of cool how they release a new winner every day, right? Or the male and female winners. So they do a countdown. They'll start, with the 10th place, and then the next day 9th place, and they go all the way down to first. And these are for North American ultra runners. This is not for the whole world. This is for Canada, the United States, and I believe Mexico. Mexican runners are also in the pool.
It's interesting you say that. I was just reading the rules. AJW was talking about the rules, and it's like, I think it's a North American. You have to be a North American citizen, but you can kind of be living wherever you want to be living, which is an interesting loophole that we'll see. Someone probably had to kind of use.
Yeah, and I wasn't quite sure how that worked, but that makes sense. Yeah, because if first place is who I think it's going to be, that person hasn't lived in the United States in like a year and a half. So
yeah.
But we'll see. So they released 10th place the other day, and 10th place for the females was a tie. Jennifer Lichter from Whitefish, Montana, was tied for 10th place for the women. She won the Rut 50K, and Rut 50K it's what's considered a sky race, and it has a lot of climbing at altitude. Like, it's in Montana, I believe, and it's very technical. And she won the race for the third year in a row. The Rut is definitely something I would like to try one year. I think maybe 12,000 feet of climbing, something like that, 50K. And then at the World Mountain Championships in Austria, she got 4th place for the females. And then in the JFK 50, which is a very popular and very fast 50K. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the JFK 50, Johnny, but there is a ton of runners in that thing. Like, that's one where they have a lot of entrance and a lot of speed.
I believe, I know Western States is the oldest 100-miler. I think JFK is the oldest ultra in the U.S.
That might be true.
And I think what's cool about this, and it was talking about this a little bit in her little bio about why she got 10th. I think what's really impressive about her specifically is, generally speaking, you'll see a person who is a climber and they're really good at climbing, or you'll see a person who is like, give me flat and I'll tear it up, right? Like, you don't see, like, those kind of people don't really live in both worlds. So for her to be able to do Rut and then come off from Rut and then win JFK, she's a beast. Like she's strong and she's fat. Like that combination. It's kind of weird to see her. I don't know. It's kind of weird to see her 10th, right? Like that's really speaks freaking volumes for 1 through 9 when that's 10th. Like, that's setting the bar really high for 1 through 9.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, you're right. You don't see that crossover too much where they're great at the mountainous, like, technical, steep climbing, all that, and then they come out and get first place at JFK 50 mile.
Yeah, like you said, which has all the talent at it. Like all the big names show up to JFK.
Yeah, and then she's a native of Bogota, Colombia, but she emigrated to the U.S. at age 9 and now lives in Missoula, Montana. And also tied for 10th place, Sarah Ostazuski, and she's from Flagstaff, Arizona. She won Cocodona 250 for the females. And also, she won Ouray 100-miler, which is a very, very difficult 100-miler. Johnny, I think there's 40,000 feet of climbing in Ouray 100.
I will go on record. I know that there are people that, and we're going to talk about it later on. There's a race that people say is the hardest. Listen, I'll go on record. Just my humble opinion. Our way is the hardest 100 in the U.S. Like I can't wrap my head around there being a harder one. To your point, like it's insane amount of elevation, and you're already super high. Like,
yep.
I don't know. Like,
you're at altitude. Yeah, it would be hard to argue as far as mountain races go.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the hardest for sure. And she got 11th at Run Rabbit Run, which is a very competitive race. Saddles second, John Kappas 50K second, Tarawera, that's in New Zealand. She got 15th, and that's a huge race. I mean, like there are so many people that run that race. So, and then the Coldwater Rumble, which I believe is an Air Viper race too. She got 3rd. So
she was a busy lady in 2023.
Busy. That's a lot of racing.
What's nuts is all those races are post Cocodona. Like she won a 250-mile race, and then it was like, oh, you know what? Watch this, and then turn around, bust out, a half a dozen other races. Like Run Rabbit Run. Everyone else 1 through 10 was like, oh, cool, she's on tired legs, and she still hammered out 11th place. You know what I mean? Like crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. Originally from Indiana, now lives in Flagstaff. Good place to train, Flagstaff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to the men's side. Ryan Montgomery got 10th place. He's from Wanship, Utah.
Flip it over to him.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we got to check out old Ryan.
So Ryan's 10th, and he ran 4 highly competitive races, placed well in all of them. A win at Quad Rock 50 in Colorado. So he got 7th at Western States, and he got 3rd at Tarawera, which that's pretty impressive. Quad Rock 1st, and Javelina 3rd on a year in Javelina where there was 3 times under 13 hours, which is like unheard of. So
obviously he's one of them, just in case folks missed that. Just in case you're listening on a podcast, 3 people under 13. He came in at 12:59, 6 seconds. So just beast.
And Ryan identifies as queer and is founder of Out Trails, which is an organization that promotes inclusion and is a leading advocate for LGBTQ plus runners. And Ryan lives outside of Park City, Utah. So congrats to Ryan. And then we're going to move on to 9th place. And for the men, Ohio's own Arlen Glick.
Great guy. Great guy. I have had him run by me so fast at Mo, it legitimately scared me. Like unbelievably great guy.
Yeah, Harlan. I've heard him on many podcasts. He's just super humble, super nice. I mean, we could spend a lot of time talking about all the great things he's done for society, but yeah, just a top-notch guy. And he set a course record at Umstead this year, 12 hours and 57 minutes, first place. And I heard him on a podcast, on the Adventure Jogger podcast, talking about Umstead, and he had literally less than a minute of downtime where he stopped. I mean, I think it was literally like less than 20 seconds, maybe. And Ryan, the host, asked him how you went to the bathroom. He said he perfected how to do it, while he was on the run. So,
solid.
Yeah. So literally only like 20 seconds where he wasn't actually running.
God,
he didn't have.
I love that. I love that because I will act like I have to stop to pee just to stop moving. Like, I think I have to pee, knowing damn well that I've been so dehydrated for the last like 30 miles that there's nothing coming out of that except for salt. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, I have to pee. No, you don't. I just want to stop moving for a second. That's amazing.
Yeah. And I did the same thing at Fat Dog. Like I would stop, just have an excuse to look at the meteor shower that was going on. I'm like, yeah, I gotta pee. No, I don't really have to pee. I'm just gonna look at the meteor shower. But back to Arlen, he didn't really have the Western States that he was hoping for, and I know he was training his ass off for Western States, but it just wasn't his day. But he did still get 14th place and a pretty stout time of 16 hours and 37 minutes, which that's pretty awesome.
That's crazy.
And then he went to Hard Rock. So he did the Western States Hard Rock double this year, and he threw down a pretty fast time at Hard Rock, 26 hours, 43 minutes, good enough for 5th place. Then he went to Run Rabbit Run, and he got 3rd. So he really rounded out the year pretty well. And 9th place for the females is Tara Dower. Tara's from Virginia Beach, so she's a flatlander. So my brother-in-law used to live near Virginia Beach, and we went down to visit him one time when I was training for a 100-miler. So I was going out to do training runs, and yeah, it is very flat there. There was one park that the only place where there was trails pretty much that I would go run, but yeah, it's flat. But so even though she's training in flatlands, she still won Hellbender, which from my understanding is a really hard race. I've never.
That's in Kentucky, right? Or what am I? What's the one that's in Kentucky that I'm thinking? I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. But even amongst the flat, just talking about the flat stuff, right? Her being a flatlander now. The other thing that they're talking about up in the bio when they're talking about what she had accomplished, that's really impressive. And this doesn't go into the runner of the year. Like, it's not part of the voting process, or it's not supposed to be included in your decision making. Is the fact that she set an FKT also this year, and so she must be rocking some stair climber or like some bridge work or something, because she is knocking down some runs with some elevation, doing some things that are out in the mountains and still killing it. So.
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. She set a FKT on the Colorado Trail, which that's a very popular trail for FKTs. So there's been some really fast people that have thrown down on that trail.
I feel like Courtney gave it a shot, right? Didn't Courtney go after it? And she had a rough go, right?
Yeah, actually, she may have tried that twice. I can't remember, but I know she did it at least once. So.
Yeah. So
yeah. So kudos to Tara. Hellbender, I looked it up. It's in Asheville, North Carolina, and it's grueling. A grueling tour of the massive Black Mountains deep into the valleys below. Summits Mount Mitchell, elevation change of it's 48,000 feet. So I'm guessing 24,000 feet of climbing.
Mount Mitchell, for those that don't know, highest mountain east of the Mississippi. So,
yeah,
like, I mean,
technical.
Yeah, I get it. It's not the West Coast, right? But like, let's not forget this is the highest point east of the Mississippi, and it's still coming in at I think it's just shy of 7,000 feet. And oh, by the way, out here in the east, we have rocks and roots. We don't have people buffing out our trails for us, so that thing is like absolutely insane.
Yeah, and this is definitely a graduate level 100-miler, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt.
She also threw down 170 miles at Ohio's Backyard Ultra, and 12th at Black Canyon. She won Run Rabbit Run. There's nice prize money there, and she got 4th at JFK. So another mountain runner with a lot of speed.
Mm-hmm.
Congrats to Tara. And then in 8th place for the females is Katie Asmuth, pretty famous name in the ultra running community. She's from Mammoth Lakes, California. Mammoth Lakes is in the Eastern Sierra. It's a really cool area. I've only actually been out there exploring once, so I need to get back out there. A lot of great trails and stuff out there. But Katie actually missed the second half of 2022 after surgery to repair a broken navicular bone in her foot. So a broken bone in the foot cannot be good. It cannot be good. You know, blood does not flow to the feet. It's hard to heal. It's hard to heal tendons and broken bones. So I can't even imagine the pain. But she didn't start running again until January of 2023. She finished 3rd at Way Too Cool and Gorge Waterfalls. So Way Too Cool is an early season 50K in Cool, California, which is near Auburn, and Gorge Waterfalls is in Oregon. That's a pretty competitive race, and I think it was on hiatus for a while, but I think it's recently came back. Dylan Bowman and Free Trail, I believe they purchased that race, or they have a partnership with that race. Yeah, so pretty strong showing. Nice comeback for Katie. And then also in 8th place on the men's side is Jonathan Rhea. And Jonathan, actually, this is another one I'm surprised that he's 8th. I thought maybe he would be a little higher. He's from Boulder, Colorado. He set a course record at Javelina Jundred. I mean, he threw down 12 hours and 43 minutes at Javelina, which is just insane. 15th at Western States, 4th at CCC, which is like the 100K of UTMB, which is a very competitive race. A lot of elite ultra runners from across the world are in that race. So 10:43 of there, and Behind the Rocks first. Running Up for Air. I'm not going to get into it now. It's a cool deal, but I do want to talk about that. Maybe in the next episode, we'll talk about Running Up for Air. But he got first at that event, and Desert Rats second. So really, really strong showing, and definitely deserving of 8th, if not better.
It says a lot about this year when he's 8th, right? Like if you look at his rankings,
yep.
Like, listen, he won everything, took 4th at Triple C, and then 16th at Western States. But even when he took, I'm sorry, 15th. But even when he took 15th, he still had what a year to get like buried at Western States, like 15th, and you ran a 16:38. Like it doesn't
exactly.
make sense. It's wild. It's wild. So again, like 1 through 7 is just going to be fire, just absolute fire, like freaks of nature.
Yeah, no doubt. And there was a lot of fast times at Western States last year because it was a cool year. There was some snow in the high country, but I don't think it slowed people down too much. And the cool weather allowed them just to fly after they got out of the high country. So, all right, that's all we have to date for the Ultra Runners of the Year from Ultra Running Magazine. And tomorrow will be 7th, 6th. So we'll be able to go over some more of these in the next episode. Also, another media group, which is Dylan Bowman's Freetrail, they do their own version of this, and theirs is complete actually, but it's a little bit of a different format. It's the Trail Runner of the Year. So it doesn't have to be the ultra distance. It's just the Trail Runner of the Year. And they don't limit it to just North America. They actually include runners from all over the world. So it's much more comprehensive. And the voting is actually done. There's a few different areas where they get votes from. But anyways, no surprise, the winner for the females and the Trail Runner of the Year from Freetrail is none other than Courtney Dauwalter, who had the best summer ever.
I'm floored.
Yeah, big surprise. But absolutely way more than just deserving. I mean, just, it wouldn't make sense if anybody else got it. And then for the men was Jim Walmsley, who was the first American male to finish UTMB. Jim also had a couple other wins earlier in the year. So yeah, that's not too much of a surprise. And final standings for women: Courtney Dauwalter won, Katie Scheid, Sophia Leclerc, Tony McCann, Grayson Murphy, Judith Wider, Claire Banninsworth, Leigh Yingling, Ruth Croft, and Blandine Lahindro. Walmsley was first, Remy Bonnet second, Zach Miller third. So Zach finished second at UTMB from the U.S. Tom Evans won Western States. He came in fourth. Aurelien Palaz, I believe he won Hard Rock this year. Yeah. And Jonathan Albin, Jermaine Granger, Stian Agerman, Tyler Green, and Anthony Costales. So it's cool that Freetrail does this because it's, it covers runners from all over the world. So, all right. Now we're going to move into some other news. One of my favorite ultra running media personalities, and just seems like an all-around great guy. I've had the pleasure of talking to him once or twice. He has some big news, and that's Andy Jones Wilkins. Everybody knows him as AJW. So in the article in his, every Friday he releases an article at iRunFar's website. It's called AJW's Tap Room. And this article from Friday was about a change in his life. And he was 34 years in the education industry. I think he was like headmaster for some schools. And I know he moved around the country a lot doing that. But so 34 years he was in the industry, and he's going to leave the education industry, and he's going to concentrate on a lot of things ultra running. So He currently writes for iRun Far. He also coaches, and he's writing a book, or he's talking about he's gonna write a book now that he's leaving his career. He does a lot of the live streaming commentating for Aravaipa. He has a podcast for last year called Crack a Brew with AJW. He's talking about putting on a series of running camps, and so he's got a lot planned. He's going to be a busy guy in his new career, his new way of life, and I'm glad to see it. I'm looking forward to all his content. He's just a great guy to listen to. He's very smart, very knowledgeable. He knows a lot about the history of the sport. I'm super excited. So congrats to AJW.
He will be. He's one of those guys that every year when anything Western States starts to come around, he's like one of those people that you kind of like put notifications on Twitter to get like he tweeted something, because like the stuff that he, like you said, like he knows so much. Like he's like an encyclopedia. So
Yeah.
he's like I think he's like replied to one or two of my tweets, and like I was like,
yeah,
I've made it. Like AJW, like you're like, hell yeah. I've never met him in person, but everything I've heard about him, kind of seen from afar, legitimately seems like one of the nicest guys ever. So
yeah, he really is. He really is. And and as we saw in the last episode, he interviewed me after I tumbled at the finish line at Black Canyon. So that was
and he
cool.
cared. He legitimately cared. Like he was like, "Oh shit!"
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't me. He wasn't me, and didn't just laugh at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like, look at that guy.
No, he's super down to earth. And he puts out a lot of great content. Like his articles are fantastic. I look forward to it every Friday morning. I look forward to reading what he's putting out. So congrats to AJW. That is really cool. And we're definitely excited to see what you have in store.
Yep.
All right. So the final thing that we have to talk about today is a film review. As I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, Sportiva, they had a essay contest, I believe, and they wanted to pick somebody to highlight at Leadville. So they hired Billy Yang to direct the film of the person, to follow the person that won the essay contest. And so this was released a few weeks ago, and it's called Like a Lead Balloon, 30 Hours at the Leadville 100. So I think before we start talking about the film, we should talk a little bit about Leadville. Leadville is a 100-miler. It's in Leadville, Colorado. Okay, this is an old mining town. The town sits at 10,152 feet above sea level. And one of the main mines there closed in the early 80s. This mine, I believe, employed practically the whole
city.
town.
Yeah, the city.
Unless you own the gas station or the bar.
The bar, yeah.
Or the grocery store. You're probably working in the mine, or a part of the mine. So that closed in the early 80s, and a guy named Ken Chabler, he was trying to figure out ways to get people to come into Leadville and try to generate some revenue. And so he got the idea to start a race, a 100-mile race. Okay, so Leadville is one of the oldest 100-milers in the United States. It's very well known. It was one of the first 100-milers I ever heard about because I read the book Born to Run, and it was featured in there. This is an out and back. in the mountains. It's at altitude. You have to climb up and over Hope Pass towards the end of the first, out. And that Hope Pass is at 12,600 feet above sea level. You go back down the other side, and then you're at the halfway point. So you go back up and over and back. So our friend Ron is running. I've never run it. I would like to run it at some point, but so anyway, it's not as much climbing as other mountain races. I'm thinking it's around 16,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the weird thing about it, right? Is it has like two big climbs, and I mean it's kind of like the same climb, but because it almost back to back. But I don't think it has as much as what like a lot of people kind of think, if that makes sense. Which, don't get me wrong, it's not an easy race by any stretch of imagination.
No, it has its challenges because you're at altitude.
You're at 10,000 feet the entire time.
Yeah, and you're going up to 12,600 feet, right? Yeah. So you have that to deal with. Yeah. So, and it's a 30-hour time limit, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's a pretty strict cutoff for being at altitude in the mountains. So yeah, it has its challenges. And Ken, who started the race, is a really interesting guy. I heard he has like some really great pre-race speeches and things like that. I've heard him on a podcast before. Leadville was actually bought out by Lifetime Fitness. I can't remember how many years ago that was, but I know the first year they took it over, it was kind of a shit show. Because there's a lot more people in the race, and there was just congested crew traffic and all kinds of stuff. But I did hear that they learned from all their mistakes, and I heard it's back to running like a well-oiled machine. Mm-hmm. And I haven't heard many complaints from it. We hear a lot about corporations getting involved in ultra running with UTMB and Ironman and all that, but I haven't heard too much negative stuff about Lifetime Fitness and Leadville, so that's good. All right, so let's get into this film. All right, this focuses on this guy, a wealth manager from Dallas, Georgia. His name's Jeff Beecham. He grew up in Indiana, and in Georgia, he works with some trail runners. And so he got into running because of them, and slowly moved into the ultra space. Like I said, Sportiva had the essay contest, and they picked Jeff from his essay, which was titled Like a Lead Balloon. And the film talks about Jeff's life and some hardships that he's had and how he got to this point. His wife, Jessica, was there crewing with his friend, Kevin, and another friend, Justin, and also Jeff's brother, Andy, was there. Yeah, so the cool thing about this film is that Billy Yang, he is like a professional filmmaker. You can really tell the quality of his content. And it's cool how he kind of weaves the essay in throughout the film. And it's not very long. I think it's maybe 19, 20 minutes
tops. And it doesn't feel like 19 minutes. Like it moves very quick. Like when I watch, I'm like, oh, it's done. Like you know what I mean? Like it's a very fast 19-minute film.
Yeah. And one of the funny things that I picked up in watching this was how people perceive a 100-mile race as a spectator, right? You have people that are inspired and want to do it, and then you have people that are like, hell no.
yeah.
It's like his friend Kevin said that he was inspired and wanted to do it, but his brother Kevin was like, no.
Okay.
Not gonna happen. So yeah, so it just follows Jeff and his race. He looked like he was almost timed out at Twin Lakes before he went up over Hope Pass. Like I think he left out of the A station with like no time to spare. And I'm guessing Leadville is not a race that you want to be close to cutoffs.
I can't imagine. I can't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and like Leadville is also the other thing that's kind of interesting about Leadville is if you use pacers, you can't pick up your pacer in Leadville until 62.
That's right.
So a lot of them, you pick them up at 50, right? So I mean, if you haven't ran 100, a lot of weird shit happens between 50 and 62 for some reason. Like there's a lot of wacky stuff that happens. Now, granted, like there's still even more wacky stuff for you after that. But I mean, so it is a added challenge that Leadville likes to throw at people, which is like, oh, by the way, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, he did well. I don't know if you want to spoil the finish for anybody, but
well, we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, when he left out of Twin Lakes, his feet were like destroyed too, like just that blister. Oh man, and like a true ultra runner chugging that. I don't know if you saw that, chugging that pickle juice.
Yeah. Oh man, like that was early too. Like I felt like that was early in the race. It showed him chugging that. I'm like,
yeah, and I believe it said this was his longest. The longest run before this was like 34 miles. So
at one point in the race, he's like, "Oh, I've officially doubled my longest." And it was like the 100K mark.
You're like, Twin Lakes, yeah.
Wait a second.
So 50K was probably his longest. Before.
Yeah, like he did a 50K before this. Like listen, again.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, I mean, like it's an insane, like. Even if you're experienced in 100-milers, if you like, it's crazy to think that he jumped from a 50K to Leadville.
Yeah.
Coming from Georgia. Like that dude ran flat stuff, and they came out and ran, a race that has 15,000 feet of gain. At 10,000 feet of elevation.
Yeah, I'm not sure where at in Georgia he's from. But yeah, chances are he's not training in the mountains.
No, I don't think. Well, I guess
there is some hills
way northern. Like you got the AT way North Georgia, but
yeah. Okay, so yeah, he must have picked up some steam. Because he did leave out of the halfway point Winfield with like 25 or 30 minutes to spare. But the one thing that he said, and this is something that really hit me, when he left Winfield and he was climbing back up the Hope Pass, he saw the runners still coming down, and he knew, like, math wise, they're not going to make the cutoff. And he said that they were just devastated. And I can relate to that because I left out of the mile 80 A station at Fat Dog this last year. I left out that A station with just a couple minutes to spare. And there was, as I got like maybe a half mile, up the trail, there was people passing me heading to the A station. And I'm just like, I think, part of them were glad that they were timed out, but like you could just tell it's like it's so defeating if you train for this, you spend the money, you go there, and you're just a little bit behind the cutoff, and like that's tough mentally. So that was one thing that hit me. And another thing is really just showing the highs and lows of a 100-miler, not only for the runners but for the crew. I've crewed races where it's like, oh man, they are done. Like they are done. Like there is no way they're going to turn this around. And when they do, it's, then you're all depressed. And then when they do turn it around, it's like, oh my God, like it just makes it all the more better. So
I had been that runner for crew people of like, this dude is walking death. So I've also had the sweet release of death of being timed out. So I've also had that. And like, to your point, it's bittersweet. You're like, well, this
Yep.
really sucks. But at the same time, like, thank God. Thank
Yep.
God this is done. Because you, like, I mean, at that point, you've been out there grinding for, I don't know, 20 hours, 22 hours, 24 hours, you know, and like you're battling through weather, you're battling through whatever. You're just like, thank God. I just want to curl up in a car seat and fall asleep. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
let's be done.
There is a little bit of relief. At first, for sure. I know my first 100-miler ever, I timed out at mile 74. I had my foot was jacked up bad. I was limping forever, but for many, many miles. But I was kind of relieved, also very disappointed. But yeah, it's very 100-milers are very emotional compared to any, like, 50-milers, 50Ks, things like that. Which are also emotional, but 100-milers just takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, yeah, I don't think we should spoil the finish. But I will say it's very close.
It's very close.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah. All right.
It's interesting. It's interesting because he again, not to spoil the finish, because you're gonna have to watch, but he did not make up time. He did not make up time because he left it with 25 minutes to spare, right? But he did not make up time.
No.
So I'll let everybody watch the documentary or the movie and see, like, how much did he lose. But I will let you know he did not make up time.
No. And this documentary is on YouTube. I'll provide a link to it in the comments. But yeah, no, Billy Yang, I think did a great job as always with his films. He does a really nice job. So definitely worth a watch. And we'll probably be reviewing trail running videos on a somewhat regular basis, just because there's so much great content out there. I know I get sucked into this all the time, and and just want to share this stuff with everybody. So, but anyway, you have anything else?
I don't have anything. Hope everyone has a good one. For all you Northerners, enjoy this cold weather you're getting ready to get.
Yeah, I heard it's snowing, and it's real winter for you finally.
It's getting ready to be real winter. It's going to toughen everybody up. So get ready.
Well, I just have to contend with some rain out here, so it's not so bad.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and take us out. We'll see everybody on the next one.
See you.